Hi, this demo will show how to configure viewFS between two HDFS HA clusters. The viewFS gives the ability for a local HDFS cluster to link to another HDFS cluster's file system while maintaining the same Hadoop file system interface. The advantage of using viewFS is the ability to use directory path name instead of a fully qualified URL address. viewFS can be configured on HTTP 3.1 with native HDFS or with IBM Spectrum Scale Service and HDFS transparency. If you have IBM Spectrum Scale Service, viewFS is supported with MPEG 2703 and HDFS transparency 3101 since March 2019. Note, Hive is not supported in viewFS. This demo will show how to create a viewFS environment on a local HDFS HA cluster to access a directory on a remote IBM Spectrum Scale HDFS Transparency HA cluster where the directory is from a shared file system. There are 4 steps to configure viewFS. 1. Change FSD for FS. 2. Modify the custom HDFS site properties. 3. Configure viewFS mount table entries. 4. Restore all required services. Get and save the information in step 2 and 3 for later use. Step 1. On the HDFS service, go to Configs, find the Advanced tab to go to the Advanced Call Site. Find the FS default FS to change from HDFS to viewFS and give it a name. This name will be used later for the viewFS mount table entry. Go to the custom HDFS site and add in the remote HDFS cluster entries. First, configure the DFS name service to add in the remote cluster. We call this cluster Y. Then go to Add Property to put in the remote HDFS cluster failover proxy provider, HA name nodes, name node HTTP address, and name node RPC address information. For step 3, go to the Advanced viewFS mount tables to specify the viewFS mount table entries. You must define the mount table entries to map to the physical locations to the corresponding mount points from the viewFS cluster. You must consider factors such as data access, mount levels, and application requirements while defining viewFS mount point table entries. The entry information is a configuration stanza which contains the local HDFS directory and the remote directory that one wants to access. The viewFS mount table entry stanza consists of the viewFS name from the FS default FS, the DFS internal name service from the local HDFS cluster, list of directory required on the local HDFS cluster, and the directory that you want to access from the remote HDFS cluster. For step 4, save the configuration and restore all the required services and wait until the services are back up. Spot 2 will not be able to start up until you change the event log and history log directory fields. Go to Configs, Advanced Spot 2 defaults to change the event log directories and history log directory properties from HDFS to viewFS schema. Save the configuration and restart Spot 2. Wait until all the services are up. Now, verify the cluster. On the local HDFS cluster as a user, check the remote HDFS cluster directory. Here you see the viewFS tester directory from the remote HDFS cluster as well as the local directories for the local HDFS cluster. View the remote HDFS cluster directory files. Run the viewFS schema to view the same data. Cat the file on the remote HDFS cluster. Copy a file from the local HDFS directory to the remote HDFS cluster directory. Read the created file on the remote HDFS cluster. Thank you for viewing and hope this will help you create your own viewFS environment.